My presentation is going to be about how can we come to research in our think tank in Paraguay. How we introduce research in economics in Paraguay, why we make the difference in doing research in applied economics, and how our experience over the last 20 years in doing research in Paraguay. So it's a different approach in terms of, I'm not going into details of the methods and of research and others. And first, the context. In the context, it's very important to take into account the human resources in Paraguay and also the research tradition in the country. 20 years ago, in Paraguay in the primary education, there was a high rate of dropouts. So like 60% of the pupils that entering into the primary education, they never made up. There's been a lot of progress in this, in terms of quantitative progress in this. Today, in terms of the primary and secondary school, we don't have that dropout rate anymore. But of course, what we lack is higher quality education in those two levels of education in Paraguay. Still, the product of the human resources that is coming into university is very poor in terms of quality. In terms of the tertiary education, the same thing. There has been 2 universities in Paraguay until 1990, and then there's a great increase in number of universities, like 53 of them. But again, without quality control on programs and teachings. Most of these universities offered are not in hard science. Some of them are in hard science, but most of them is offering more courses in business administrations, marketing, not even in those basic type of careers. There's no research tradition in universities in Paraguay also. There are some research tradition in hard science, but very few. And of course, the result is the graduation of professionals without critical thinking. So research is not part of the university. And here we can have more characteristics of higher education in Paraguay. And of course, these from 1990 on, the increased number of institutions in terms of universities, what it made is it increased the number of the students dramatically, and also professors in higher quantity. But we have 2 problems. Few professionals with PhD or MA degrees and few graduate programs offered. Most of the qualified professionals in Paraguay have to go to study abroad because these quality careers are not offered in Paraguay. I'm talking about social sciences, I'm not talking about hard science. Then we have these problems of what I call the taxi professors. Professors are not really full-time professors, not even part-time professors. Professors are the ones that go from one university to another from 6 o'clock in the evening up to 10 o'clock at night. So they are taxi professors, low payment, many courses, many universities, but really they are not devoted to updating themselves, and they are not devoted to research. In career supply, like I said before, do not match the needs of the country, and social science without tradition of research in universities. So when we started our think tank in 1990, we had not started immediately with the research project or with the we were independent, and of course, and we just had our the founding members. We just have our formation abroad with the MA and PhDs, and what we first did, because of the time when we were founded in 1990, the country was coming out from the dictatorship. There was no debate, no discussions after 35 years of dictatorship. So the first thing we have to do is just, we were demanded to go to the mass media to give our professional opinions. In just based in our studies and always in terms of economic policies. The second thing that we did, and because it was also demanded, is that there was institutions within the government that did not function before because of the dictatorship, and that was the Congress. So we ended up advising committees of the National Congress for many laws many bills that became laws. Other things that we did before going into real research was organizing meetings between policymakers and the private sector leaders, because there was this big gap or this big absence of discussions in between the entrepreneurs and the ones that do policy making in the country. And so when they started to talk to the press, just fighting each other to the press, and not in a proper environment for discussing policy making in between these two sectors. So we fostered that. And we started producing materials on relevant economic issues for different social, economic, and political actors, to the Congress, to the different sectors, like the entrepreneurial sectors. And we started also to connect ourselves to foreign research institutions and professionals through this connection. Through these connections to different foreign research institutions that we already had because we were educated abroad, we kept updated ourselves, and we can bring create projects and bring professionals from other countries in order to start projects and to sell those projects, like elaboration of research projects to be presented to international foundations. And finally, after 5 or 6 or 5 years of doing all this, and we were doing short research projects in the middle, of course, and then we started to define areas of expertise. So, we're talking about here making the difference because this was not a normal practice in Paraguay in terms of research in economics, right? So there was no practice of, even there was some sort of research, very small quantity of research. There was not a practice of peer reviews in between the research community in Paraguay. The research community was being formed at that time, at the same time. And so the first thing that we did is to do this kind of practice in between the CADEP members and professionals of other institutions in the country, because there was a time also that professionals educated abroad were coming after the dictatorship in Paraguay, and they were individuals and working even in public institutions and private. So we tried to exchange with them in terms of peer reviews. Elaborated papers for foreign think tanks and participating in that's what we call the early networking, especially with countries in South America, in which we could have more easy relationships. People in Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, that of course that were educated also abroad. They have think tanks and universities, and we approached them, and that was one of the important factor for research and for when we elaborated papers with these institutions and presented an international conference. What we call the pioneering work was that before there was nobody was researching on different subjects or relevant subjects of the Paraguayan economy. Even international organizations, they will talk about macroeconomic, the relevant macroeconomic issues, but they will never talk. There was no study on, for instance, Paraguay was in the middle of integration process in the 90s. There was no study on what were going to be the benefits or the limitations of being integrated in the greater area of economic integration in South America. There was no study on competitiveness, on state reform, on poverty, on labor. All those issues were introduced by our think tank in the discussions of the public sector, the private sector, and also for universities that for the first time they have in their courses they could have analysis on relevant issues on the Paraguayan economy. And then, of course, creativity for data collection and data processing, because we have a lot of limitations on data collection and data processing, so we have to really use different methods in order to standardize the data and compare with data in similar countries in Latin America and in South America in order to produce good research. In building of research capacity, okay. I'm going to read this. In building research capacity, we have the founding members educated in the United States and Europe. We gather other local well-educated professionals to join research projects. We invite professionals from other countries for comparative studies. We did that systematically for over 7 or 8 years in international seminars, so they can have original papers to be published and to be discussed in the country. We do partnership with scholars that research on Paraguay at foreign universities. We call that, we have a special word for that. The ones that you will find in European and United States universities that specialize in countries or in different aspects of the country. And of course, research learning from participating in different academic networks. We train university students as junior researchers and concepts and methods for applied economics and improve the capacity of junior researchers through assistantships to visiting scholars. We had that experience with universities in the north especially, and fostering junior researchers for graduate studies abroad. And as a matter of fact, we do not let the young students or young junior economists to stay in our center before they can. They have to go and make a graduate studies abroad and then come back and continue if they want to continue in the center in order to be a senior researcher. We do not let them just go without any graduate study abroad. And so we came up with the conclusions. We overcome hurdles for research, which are lack of qualified human resources, poor quality and availability of data and sources of information, and absence of a network for academic debate on economic policies. That was what when we were created 20 years ago, that's where the principal hurdles that we found it. And I think we contributed to filling the space of research in economics in the country. We had new approaches to relevant issues of the Paraguayan economy, and we improved the level of discussions of economic policies in the country and also in the region through the networking work activities that we developed. Thank you very much.